Welcome back to Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn. Last time we found out that the goddess Ashura has raised an army against us, the Disciples of Order. Team Micaiah dealt with their batch of disciples, but now it's time to switch over to Team Ike and see what route they're taking to the Tower of Guidance.
Ike's route leads his group to the west. He is accompanied by his old comrades, Deputy Commander Titania and Master Tactician Soren. Also with him are Nyla, Queen of Hatari, the Heron Prince Raphael, Prince Kurthnaga of Goldoa, and his loyal subject Ina. Having received a warning from Micaiah about the Disciples of Order, Ike and company stay alert and wary as they cross into Celiora.
Hey, Celiora, we were there much earlier in the game. Nice callback there. So we're off on the road to the Empire. So, just sentient beings, I guess. I may have said this before, but I like how they switch up the herons for the parties. I mean, it makes sense for Rayson to be on the same team as Tiban, but as for the others, it's kind of interesting to see Raphael get to interact with Ike. And nice justification for the enemy's levels and stats getting slightly higher as we progress through these chapters. Nearly beat really? Well, I suppose I had a couple of close calls. As of recording this, it has been a while since I recorded that one, but really they weren't that bad. The worst thing that happened in that chapter, as far as I can remember, is Sanaki killing the boss and getting a horrendous level up. So it's time for a break, and that means the bass again. I do miss the original bass theme, but I admit that it wouldn't fit here at all. Anyway, first we're going to info, and we have first an info conversation that doesn't really give anything, but it does give a little bit of, not so much backstory, but a bit of flavour on the herons, and again, we get to see Ike interacting with Raphael, which is something that we didn't get to see much earlier in the game. Raphael was a bit of a side-switching revolving door during Part 3. Sometimes he was with Ike and the other herons, sometimes he was with Micaiah. Well, I mean, considering how fragile herons are, that kind of makes sense. I actually know a lot of people, though, myself included, who sometimes tend to apologize when, instinctively for things that aren't really their faults. Thankfully, Raphael has someone who can be assertive for him. Yeah, I've mentioned this before, but Raphael is a very typical heron. Rayson, not so much. Even Leanne. So, thing is, if you'd actually heard Leanne speak, you'd realize she's not nearly as innocent and sweet as she looks. She's actually much more like Rayson. Yeah, Rayson was kind of raised in Phoenicis, and he picked up a lot of his mannerisms from Tiban. And that's what Nyla's saying right now. Don't you just love it when you say something in a commentary and then the dialogue says the exact same thing? So, this line has actually led a lot of people to study what Rayson's speaking style was like in the Japanese version. From what I've read, I think he speaks relatively casually, and Tiban's speaking style in the Japanese version isn't particularly, like, over the top rough or anything, so these lines do feel a little weird sometimes. Well, at least he doesn't want to end up just like Nisala. And Nyla's actually pretty funny sometimes. So, 2 more base conversations here. Now, well, this one you're probably looking forward to, but this one is actually kind of interesting for a few reasons. This is much more important in the Japanese version than it is in the English version. And I'll explain that at the end of this. Ike implies that this item is relatively well known, but in the game there's only one of them, and it's only useful for one specific thing. And this is kind of a callback to a base conversation from the previous chapter. Kind of interesting how Ike mentions Mist sounding like Yune. In a lot of ways, Yune is kind of similar to Mist, and I have a theory about that. But anyway, from that we get the Holy Crown. Now I'm going to break from doing base conversations for a second and explain what the Holy Crown is. So, the Holy Crown is a promotion item to 3rd tier for Mist only. Now, this was significant in the Japanese version because there, Mist needed this in order to promote to Valkyrie. It was the only way you could do it. Master Crowns did not work on her. Now, in the English version, Master Crowns still don't work on Mist, but she can promote to 3rd tier by getting 100 experience at level 20. So the Holy Crown is not essential in the English version. And this means that Mist was actually in some ways a lot weaker in the Japanese version because she couldn't promote to 3rd tier until now. Funny story about this item as well is that, according to the FAQs on Serene's Forest, there are a lot of people who try using this on Mist when she's a Valkyrie, thinking that Cleric must be a 1st tier class. I mean, there's no way that it's a 2nd tier class, right? Actually, Cleric is 2nd tier, and Valkyrie is her highest class in this game. So, yeah, it still gives her a mount, and it's actually kind of... If you have enough bonus experience to, like, for example, I could... How much would that cost me? It would cost a fair amount of bonus experience. This is probably a little inefficient, because I should be saving this for later on in the game, where I can use it to cap my character's stats, but... having an extra mounted healer for this mission might not be that bad of a thing, and it will also mean that Mist doesn't... I'll get back to the base conversation, don't worry, but while we're on the subject of the Holy Crown, I might as well use it now. It will also mean that Mist dies slightly less easily in this chapter. She'll still die pretty easily, but she'll at least be a little bulkier. I'm not going to go all the way to 20, just a bare minimum of 10 here. I'm only promoting her just for the extra movement, really. And to show off what Valkyrie looks like in this game, because I actually mentioned this earlier, or I'm not sure if I did or not. I might have mentioned that in the failed attempt of 3 Prologue. Also, Mist does add transfer bonuses in this file, so it's only fitting that I promote her. But yeah, still not going to 20 because that would waste a lot of bonus experience. So, Mist's cleric design in this game, her outfit resembles her promoted outfit from the last game. And when she promotes to Valkyrie, I like the moonlit background there. Her outfit resembles her original cleric outfit from Path of Radiance, so we've kind of come full circle. Also, I believe she is weak to horse-slaying weapons now, unlike Path of Radiance where she wasn't for some reason. So, Mist is now Valkyrie. Oh yeah, and she got that Spirit Dust from Boyd. I'm wondering who I should use that on. I guess Soren, because that would help him cap magic more quickly so he can then work on his other stats via bonus experience, though sadly his speed is almost capped. Yeah. Mages in this game do not have very good caps. But anyway, Mist. So, she's a Valkyrie now. Pretty much the same as Path of Radiance, uses swords and staves, and she has Soul. Here you don't need to waste an occult scroll on her in order to have her learn Soul. She comes with it by default, and it triples damage in this one, so actually gives Mist a bit of an edge. She's still kind of weak, but like I said, it still gives her at least a little bit of an edge. Okay, heal, mend, and another heal staff. Okay, I'll get to the other base conversation before I do my inventory management. And look who it is. It's Iros once again. Though this might be one of the last times we see her flirt with Ike. Now, this would be a lot more useful to me if I'd focused on Soren's wind rank earlier in the game, but, unfortunately I tended to spam fire and thunder earlier, which might come back to bite me at this point. And obviously, yeah. Plus, the last time Aimee interacted with Soren, he kind of swindled her into giving a discount to the entire army, and she's probably not going to fall for that again. And again, Ike is just like, I don't care at all. That is admittedly kind of true. That's not exactly true, though. Although, the funny thing about me comparing her to Amy Rose is that, that thing that she just said actually does describe Sonic, essentially. Yeah. And Ike has an amazing line here. No truer words about Aimee have been spoken. But we do get the SS Wind Tome out of that, Rex Caliber. And let's, I guess, just get rid of Shade. So, funny thing about Rex Caliber is that, so in the last game, Path of Radiance, Rexbolt was the only S-ranked, in this game SS-ranked magic in the game. Rex Caliber and Rex Flame, which we'll be seeing a little bit later, were in the Path of Radiance code, they just weren't obtainable. But in Radiant Dawn, you can get every SS weapon, so we now finally have access to Rex Caliber properly. And I still find it funny how Rex Caliber is, I think it's like a it's not like a 5-star weapon in Heroes, if I remember correctly, which is a little bit weird, but I guess its name is a bit generic of all of the Ultimate Tome names in the series. Its stats are kind of solid, actually. Very high hit rate, 10 crits, 13 might is, it's not bad for a magic tome in this game. And once again mentioning that the Accept Wyverns part was added in the European version, the American version forgot about that. So, Rex Caliber, you're meant to give that to Soren. Unfortunately, I have a slight problem, and I think I'll get rid of Meteor for now. Yeah, Soren hasn't hit an SS rank and win yet. So, I should have been using Elwind a lot more earlier in the game. He does have Discipline, so I have a bit of a dilemma here. Either I use an arm scroll on Soren so that he can use Rex Caliber now, or I wait and see if I can reach an SS rank and win naturally, which I probably should hit before endgame, because Ike's party still has this chapter and one more before endgame. Also, Rex Caliber only has 15 uses, which is terrible. So actually spamming it now is not a good idea. It will become important later on, and the 15 uses are not going to be an issue, let's just say. But for now, yeah, I might leave that. So I have Physic on Soren, which, honestly, I'd probably prefer Physic on Mist because she needs to stay away from the front lines. I mean, Soren is frail, but Mist is more frail. Actually, wait, no, they're both... Okay, they're both at the same defense, but Mist has slightly lower HP. But anyway, I think Soren is okay. Do I have any other tomes I can... 2 one-use fire tomes, nope. Something I also just realized, oh, also Torch, yes, I actually need Torch here. Who should use that though? Because Torch is centered around you in this game rather than a selected space. So, maybe, now Soren will be fighting a lot in this chapter. Let's see, maybe I should give that to Mist because she's very mobile, and then I could trade some of Mist Starve's overdue, because I might bring Rice to this chapter, maybe, because at least that's another healer. Now, as for other inventory management, I'm actually going to be deploying Shinnon here, because even though he's not 3rd tier, he's still very useful for this point in the game. That just goes to show how powerful he is. But Ike, yeah, so something about Ike that I want to mention. There's some people who, in the comments, who are thinking, like, why can't Ike use axes in this game? He actually can, as you can see there. He has an A rank in axes. It's just that when he has Ragnall, who needs axes? Normally, having access to axes on promotion would be an amazing thing, because this is Radiant Dawn, and axes are ridiculous in this game. But, again, with Ragnar, do you really need anything else? No, you don't. So, yeah, also here are Ike's stats as a Vanguard. Also, our first chance to check the Vanguard description. It's actually a pretty cool description. And Mist, I'm pretty sure, is fun, but that Spirit Dust is, yeah, I might want to go ahead and just give that to Soren, even though it's kind of overkill. Nyla, I'm going to keep the Unlock Staff on Nyla, because I want that on Ike's party. He'll be encountering treasure chests in his second chapter. Oh yeah, by the way, we have no new characters for this chapter, unlike the last one, but we do have Nyla back, and she's just as broken as she was during part 1. Her only weakness is her lack of 1-2 range. So yeah, her stats are identical to how they were when she last left, and later on in Ike's chapters we'll be seeing some characters who are the same, but are nowhere near as good as she is. We also have Raphael, who's also pretty much the same as he used to be. Doesn't really need much in the way of items, although I could give him a magic card just for lols. Do I have any spare magic cards? Not really. Okay, Titania... Do I have any other axes I can give you? We are going to be finding a couple of generals here. The hammer might not be a bad idea, though. Titania at this point actually has trouble doubling a few things. Might just go ahead and take a silver axe, because why not? And yeah, I did third tier Titania earlier just in preparation for this chapter, because she is forced into this, into Ike's party. I guess Soren might as well use this. And Gatry, Dauntless is fine. I think we've grown past Steel Axe at this point in the game. And that might still be kind of useful though, but I think you need a fresh hand axe. And is there anything better I have in the axe department? Another steel poleaxe might not be bad. And as for Mia, I think you should take a fresh... Yeah, Wood Owls are terrible in terms of damage at this point. Take a fresh Wind Edge, even though Wind Edges are also terrible in damage at this point. And Rolf, let's get rid of that, and, finally I can give this to someone who makes good use of it. So there's the Brave Bow, and Rolf has Cat Magic. I probably should give him Imbue, but I think at the moment Imbue's on Toroniu. And, oh yeah, Volg's in this party too, even though at this point in the game he's really not that useful, sadly. And that rescue staff, I might put that in the convoy. Okay, I should actually explain this. So this rescue staff right here, this is actually going to be really important for me in this playthrough later on. So, I have a bad habit of hoarding really good staffs like Warp and Rescue in Fire Emblem games, because they're so good, but very often I just think, we only have 3 uses of it. I guess 5 with Hamron. And I just don't want to break it. So I have an annoying habit of that, and I'm sorry for doing that in games like Sacred Stones. Here, though, I have a very good reason for hoarding it. It's like, if I was playing optimally, I would just use it, to my heart's content, but because I plan on recording all of the special boss conversations in Endgame as bonus footage, Rescue is going to really help me do that, and because of that, I need to keep Rescue intact until at least the beginning of Endgame. Then I can make an alternate save and use Rescue to teleport people into range of bosses, because let's just say there are a ton of special boss conversations in Endgame. And to give you an idea, Astrid has several special boss conversations all the way up to Endgame Part 4. And yeah, Astrid is untrained on my file, so yeah. No way am I getting her through all of the endgame enemies. I'm gonna need to use Rescue on her if I want her to fight some of the endgame bosses. So to show that as bonus footage, I'm gonna need to keep Rescue. Anyway, might as well put Pass in the convoy too. Heather's not going to be useful in this chapter, but she will be in the next Team Ike chapter. Also, speaking of useful, Janeth. I have brought Janeth into Ike's party for a very specific reason, and I already explained that in the first part of Part 4. Basically, this chapter is Fog of War. It is your one and only chance in the entire game to make use of the Vision Range Increases by 5 ability of Janeth's Insight skill, which is kind of weird, but yeah, it's only useful in this one chapter. Now, market, let's see. Ike's worst nightmare. Aimee is now managing every aspect of the shop. And we can still buy virtually everything we want from here. Actually, we can get Arcwind now. It's only 2 might above Elwind, but this could tide Soren over until he gets Rex Caliber, so gonna go ahead and buy that for him at the moment. Plus, I actually finally get to show myself using an Arc Tome. Unfortunately, you don't sell Physic, and it's not in bargains either. I don't know why Worm Slayers are so common in bargains. There are no Wyvern enemies in this chapter at all, so not really sure. Although what you could do is buy the Worm Slayer and put it in the convoy, because there are going to be Wyvern enemies in 4.3. So having access to that on Team Micaiah is going to be maybe kind of useful. There are also a couple of Wyverns in 4.2, but there are definitely more, and they're far more annoying in 4.3 for one very specific reason that I'll get into later. Also, might be worth your while to hoard Worm Slayers for endgame. But that's all I'll say now. I already have 2 Worm Slayers. I think I'm kind of fine on those. There is the boots, though. Who should I use the boots on? I'm still not so sure. Like, I could just do the cliched and actually not optimal thing that I don't care thing and use the boots on Gatry. And Gatry's got a bit speed screwed in this playthrough, unfortunately. So I could do that, and I do really like Gatry in this game, so that might not be a bad idea. But then again, I could also give the boots to the Heron that I plan to be bringing to endgame, which may not be the Heron that you're expecting. But then again, I could also give celerity to that Heron, so... Speaking of celerity, I think I'm going to give that back to Raphael, and there are actually some really annoying flyer enemies that can easily kill Raphael in this chapter, so I don't tend to use him very much here, but celerity on Raphael is going to be really helpful in the next Team Ike chapter, because there I want to kill all the enemies as fast as humanly possible. Because that chapter can get very, very annoying. It can get out of hand with reinforcements very quickly if you don't end it early. So, yeah, anyway. On Soren, I think Soren's fine on skills. Oh, Nyla still has Pass from part 1. Not like she'll really need it here, so I might as well get rid of that. Any skill? I mean, Nyla is so powerful, she really doesn't need skills at all. But I suppose she could smite things. But, you know, Nyla's probably better served killing things than smiting utility. I suppose I could give smite... Oh, Bolden's needing that capacity. Let's just remove Savior. I doubt I'll be needing that. And in fact, maybe Miss should take Savior. No, wait a minute. Titania should take Savior. I'm not really using her for a lot, so might as well give that to her. Gatry, I think in terms of his stuff, he's fine. Mia's skills are fine. Rolf, you know, actually, I take back Gatry being fine. I really like Daunt being on you, but... I might actually need this, because the enemies in this chapter are just fast enough that Gatry doesn't reliably double them, so... Might have to use that, and then on Rolf, and he's doubling most of the enemies here anyway, so he doesn't really need Adept. Rolf can take, I guess he can take Dawn. Could give him back Blossom, but, Blossom didn't really work out so well on Rolf earlier in this playthrough. I don't actually want Shade on him, because there are a couple of enemies that I want to be provoked into attacking Rolf with a crossbow. I mean, Rolf, when he has a crossbow equipped, the enemy's attacking him. You get what I mean. Okay, as for other things, I do want to keep... I think I only have 1 Paragon left, and I am saving that for someone very specific. So, who wants Pass? May as well give Shannon Shade. And I might save Pass for now. The problem with Blossom at this point in the game is we're approaching the point where everyone is going to cap their good stats, and then with Bo's experience, they'll just cap everything anyway, so I'm not really going to need Blossom at all. And I think I'm fine on supports as well. I mean, I could try and... what the heck. Might as well. even though they're going to spend this chapter pretty far apart from each other. I could technically erase Mist and Void support now, but they do have a paired ending, and it's actually kind of a nice paired ending, so I might as well show that. Yeah, I was thinking for a second, why did I put Danved in this party, and then I realized, oh right, it's for a boss conversation in 4-4. And I think, for now, yeah, I'm not really going to be using Etard much at all. And seeing as only I can use them, they're pretty much just self-fodder at this point, because who needs them when you have Ragnar? Actually, can you even sell Etard? No, you can't, so they're not even self-fodder. That's really annoying, actually. Okay, yeah, you put Pass and Convoy so the other teams can use that. And I think we're good, so let's move out. As you can see, it's Fog of War time. And even though the intro said that Kurthnaga and Ina are with Ike's party, and it made a pretty big deal about it too, they're not playable yet. Well, thankfully Soren rolled high on perception. Well, because of the Fog of War, for one. Simply materialized. Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. The ability of the Disciples of Order to teleport their troops in is gonna get really irritating in this chapter. And this makes it sound like this is gonna be a defend map. It's not. It is, like is the running theme for Part 4, a route chapter. In fact, we have back-to-back route chapters all the way up until 4-5. So, next time, Fog of War plus route chapter. Don't you just love that combination? I know I don't.